You're in a meeting. You have spent weeks, perhaps months, preparing a project, an idea. You present it with a flicker of hope, and when you finish, there is a pause. A colleague, maybe one you thought was a friend, scoffs. That would never work, is completely naive. A few people in the room chuckle, a nervous quiet sound. Your face burns hot. Your heart begins to hammer against your ribs, a frantic drum. You feel a wave of adrenaline, a primal urge to yell, to defend, to attack, to tear them apart. But you don't. You shrink. You feel the eyes of the room on you, and you mumble. Well, it was just a thought. Or perhaps it's at a social gathering. You're with a group of people, and a friend decides to make a joke. But it isn't a joke. It's a targeted strike at your biggest insecurity, thinly veiled in humor. Everyone laughs. He claps you on the shoulder a little too hard. Just kidding, man. Can't you take a joke? You force a smile, a painful mask. But inside, you are in knots. You feel small. You feel powerless. You feel, in that moment, completely and utterly disrespected. This feeling, this agonizing sting of disrespect, it is a poison. And if you do not know how to handle it, it will kill your spirit faster than any physical weapon. It will erode your confidence, poison your relationships, and slowly, day by day, convince you that you are not worthy. If Miyamoto Musashi were alive today, he would not offer you platitudes. He wouldn't give you advice on communication strategies or corporate conflict resolution. He would tell you something far more brutal, far more direct. He would tell you that disrespect is almost never an accident. You are, in some way, inviting it. Miyamoto Musashi was a man who understood conflict at a level we can barely imagine. He fought and won 61 duels to the death, often against multiple opponents, often against masters of their own craft. A duel in his time was the ultimate test of respect. When two warriors met, they were not just testing the sharpness of their swords, they were testing their spirit, their presence, their internal state. Musashi won every duel, often before the first strike was ever thrown, because he had mastered the one thing we, in our modern world, have forgotten: self-possession. He understood, fundamentally, that the world is a constant test. Every interaction, every conversation, every glance is a probe. It is searching for your weakness. When people disrespect you, they are probing. They are, consciously or not, asking a single silent question: are you in command of yourself? When you react with blind anger, you fail the test. When you shrink in fear or shame, you fail the test. When you desperately seek their approval, trying to win them back, you fail the test. Your emotional reaction, your loss of center, is the yes that validates their disrespect. You prove to them that they can throw you off balance. You confirm that they do have power over your internal state. Today, you will learn Musashi's 3 ruthless rules for dealing with disrespect. This is not about clever comebacks. This is not about winning an argument, which is just another game of the ego. This is about forging an internal spirit so strong, so grounded, so unbreakable, that disrespect finds no purchase. It's about becoming the man who is never tested, because the answer is already clear in his very presence. This is the path of the warrior, and it is not for the weak. This brings us to the first and most crucial of Musashi's rules: forge the immovable mind. In his final, sparse, and devastating text, the Dokudo, Musashi wrote, "Do not be perturbed by anything." This is the first and most difficult practice. It is the foundation upon which all else is built. The samurai called this state Fudoshin, the immovable mind or the unmovable heart. When someone insults you, they are throwing a stone. They are waiting for you to flinch, to react, to show that you've been hit. Your anger, your shame, your defensiveness, that is the flinch. That is their reward. It is the confirmation that their stone found its mark, that they can control you. The immovable mind refuses to flinch. This is not suppression. This is a critical distinction. Most people believe strength is bottling up their anger. But suppression is not mastery. It is just a delayed explosion. It is a pressure cooker building steam which will inevitably leak out as passive aggression, anxiety, or a sudden disproportionate burst of rage later. Suppression is weakness disguised as control. Detachment, Fudoshin, is something else entirely. It is the conscious choice to observe the disrespect as if you are watching a cloud pass through the sky or a leaf float down a river. You see the insult, you register it. You feel the initial hot flash of adrenaline, and you do nothing. You do not react, you do not defend, you do not argue. You simply hold your ground. You become the mountain. The wind and rain of their words may beat against you, but you remain. Here is the practical, brutal tactic to begin forging this mind: the strategic pause. The next time someone disrespects you, your entire world, your entire focus, must narrow to one single immediate action: silence. Do not speak, do not nod. Do not even change your facial expression more than is natural. For 3 full measured seconds, you simply hold their gaze. This will be the hardest 3 seconds of your life. It will feel like an eternity, both for you and for them. Your animal brain, your ego, will scream at you to do something. It will tell you that you look weak. It will demand that you attack or that you run. This is the voice of your weakness. You must ignore it. In those 3 seconds, the entire dynamic of power shifts. The aggressor expects a reaction. They need it to complete the cycle of their aggression. When you give them nothing, a profound sense of confusion and panic sets in for them. The disrespect, which they threw at you like a weapon, now hangs in the air between you, unwanted, unreceived. It hasn't landed. It hovers, and in the silence, it starts to look ugly, clumsy, and desperate. They have been exposed. In that moment, it becomes clear that they are the ones who lost emotional control. They are the ones who created this agonizing social vacuum. 9 times out of 10, the aggressor will be the one to break the silence. They will stutter, they will try to laugh it off. It was just a joke, man. They will backpedal suddenly, desperately trying to fix the very tension they created. You have won, and you never said a word. You have shown them that their stone found no target, that you are not a puppet who dances when they pull the strings. You have shown them an immovable mind. This is the first level of Musashi's ruthlessness. It is the absolute mastery of your internal world. But this internal mastery is only half the battle. Once your internal world is secure, you must address your external projection. This brings us to the second rule. Project the gaze of the void. Musashi was a peerless strategist, but his greatest weapon was not his sword. It was his presence. Legends from the time, from men who faced him and lived, say his gaze was terrifying, that he could paralyze an opponent with a look. He wasn't just looking at them, he was looking through them. In the Book of 5 Rings, he wrote, "Perceive that which cannot be seen." When someone disrespects you, they are operating from a place of their own internal chaos. It is born of their insecurity, their malice, or their fear. They are attempting to impose their narrative on you, a narrative where they are strong and you are weak, where they are in control and you are not. Your gaze, your posture, your entire presence must project a different narrative, an unshakable, non-negotiable, and unspoken truth. This is the gaze of the void. The void, in Musashi's philosophy, is not an empty, negative space. It is not nothingness. It is a place of pure potential, a place where nothing is fixed, and therefore anything is possible. It is the state of mind before the first thought, before the first judgment. Your gaze must be the same. It is not an angry gaze, which is a sign of weakness. It is not a fearful gaze, which is an invitation for attack. It is calm, certain, observing. When you deploy your strategic pause, your gaze must be level, not aggressive, not submissive. You are not challenging them to a physical fight. You're simply purely seeing them. And what you must see, what you must perceive, is not the insult. The insult is just noise. You must see the intent behind it. You must see the weakness in them, the insecurity that forces them to lash out, the fear that makes them try to make others feel small, the desperate need for attention. When you see this, truly see it, The insult loses all its power. It's no longer a threat, it's a confession, a sad, pathetic confession. Here is the tactic for this rule: control your nonverbals. While your mind is immovable, as taught in Rule 1, your body must become a fortress of calm. First, your eyes. They hold that calm, steady contact. You do not look down, that is submission. You do not look away, that is avoidance. You are not the one being judged. In this moment, you are the observer. Second, your posture. You remain grounded. Do not cross your arms, that is defensive and weak. Do not puff out your chest, that is an aggressive, egotistical display. You simply stand or sit with your shoulders back, your spine straight. You occupy your space with a quiet, undeniable confidence. Third, your breathing. Your breath must be low in your belly, not high in your chest. A person in panic breathes shallowly. A person in control breathes deeply, slowly. They will subconsciously register this. Finally, your voice. If you choose to speak. After the 3-second pause has done its work and they are sputtering, you have a choice. Often silence is the strongest answer, but if you must speak, your voice must come from your chest, not your throat, and it must be slower and quieter than your normal speaking voice. A quiet, slow voice in a moment of tension is a massive display of power. It forces everyone else to lean in. It forces them to be quiet just to hear you. It establishes you as the center of gravity in the room. You might say very calmly, "Did you mean to be disrespectful?" Or perhaps, "I don't find that productive." Or a personal favorite, a simple, devastating question that shows you see their intent. Are you okay? The gaze of the void, combined with the strategic pause, creates an unbreakable frame. You are not the victim. You are the observer. You are not the one being tested. You are the one conducting the test. This presence is what Musashi used to win 60 duels before the 61st. His spirit had already won the battle. But what if the disrespect is not a single event? What if it is a pattern? What if it comes from a boss, a friend, or a family member who does this again and again? This brings us to the final and most ruthless rule: master the path of walking alone. This is the rule most people are terrified to implement. Musashi's final work, as we said, was the Dokodo. This translates to the way of walking alone. It is 21 principles for a life of pure, unadulterated self-reliance. It is one of the most severe and empowering texts ever written. His fourth principle: think lightly of yourself and deeply of the world. This means to let go of your own ego, your own self-importance, but to observe the world around you with profound attention. His 17th principle: do not regret what you have done. And his first, most famous principle: accept everything just the way it is. What does this mean for dealing with disrespect? It means that the ultimate power, the final move in this game, is the willingness to walk away. Not as a bluff, not as a threat, not as a dramatic emotional gesture, but as a simple, non-negotiable fact. You must not fear solitude. Rules 1 and 2 are about handling the moment of disrespect. Rule 3 is about handling the relationship. So many of us tolerate chronic disrespect from friends, family members, or bosses because we are terrified of being alone. We are afraid of losing the job. We are afraid of being kicked out of the friend group. We are afraid of the awkwardness at family dinners. We are, in a word, dependent. Musashi was ruthless in cutting dependency from his life. He was dependent on nothing and no one, not for his validation, not for his peace, not for his survival. This gave him absolute terrifying freedom. Here is the tactic, the consequence of removal. If someone disrespects you once, you apply rules 1 and 2. You establish your frame. You show them, calmly and without aggression, that their stones have no place to land. You give them a chance to correct their own behavior, but if they do it again, you must understand, it is not a mistake. It is a pattern. It is a choice. They are showing you who they are. And you must now make your choice. You must be willing to remove your most valuable asset from their life. That asset is your presence. This is not a dramatic exit. You do not scream, "That's it, I'm leaving," or "You'll never see me again." That is just an emotional reaction. It is a violation of Rule 1. It is a desperate childish plea for them to stop you, to beg you to stay. It is weakness. No, the removal is quiet. It is calm. It is a logical consequence. You simply leave. You stop answering the calls from that toxic friend. You calmly, professionally put in your 2 weeks' notice at that toxic job. You create calm, quiet, unshakable distance from the family member who repeatedly insults you. This is the most powerful move a human being can make. It is the ultimate statement of self-respect. It says, without a single angry word, my peace is more valuable than your presence. My purpose is more important than your validation. When you do this, people will panic. They will call you cold. They will call you arrogant. They will say you can't take a joke. They will say you changed. This is the noise of weak people, of emotional parasites, trying to pull you back into their chaos. You must ignore it. This is the way of walking alone. It is the price of true self-possession. Let me tell you about a man, we can call him Mark. Mark was a talented analyst at a large firm, but he was quiet, and he was deeply uncomfortable with conflict. Because of this, he was constantly disrespected. In meetings, his boss would joke that Mark was his smartest mute. Colleagues would take credit for his ideas. He was frustrated, angry, and felt utterly powerless. He tried being nicer. He tried working harder, hoping his results would speak for themselves. Nothing changed. The disrespect continued. Then Mark discovered Musashi, and he decided, with terror in his heart, to apply the 3 rules. The next week, it happened. In a large meeting with senior executives, his boss made the smartest mute joke. The room chuckled. Mark's heart hammered. He felt the familiar hot flash of shame. But this time he did it. He looked not at his boss, but at the senior executive his boss was trying to impress. Rule 1. The strategic pause. He said nothing. He just held that calm, neutral gaze. The room became silent. The boss's laugh died in his throat. The executive looked at the boss, then at Mark, with a new, sharp curiosity. The boss turned red and stammered, "Well, let's move on." Mark had won. In the next team meeting, a colleague tried to interrupt him and speak over him. Rule 2. The gaze of the void. Instead of shrinking and letting them take over, Mark stopped talking. He turned his head slowly. He looked at the colleague. He didn't glare, he just observed. He waited. The colleague, halfway through their own sentence, faltered under that calm, silent gaze. "Sorry, go on, Mark." Mark held the gaze for 1 more second. He nodded slowly, and he continued his thought. He was never interrupted by that person again. But the biggest test was his friend, Steve. Steve was the one who always made jokes about Mark's finances, his old car, his quiet lifestyle. After work one day, Steve said to a group, "Hey Mark, are you going to buy around for once? Or are you still on that poverty diet?" Mark felt the old familiar anger, but he just paid his own tab. He stood up. He looked at Steve. Rule 3. The path of walking alone. He didn't say, "You're a jerk." He didn't say, "That's not funny." He just said calmly, "I'm heading out." Steve laughed. "What? You're mad? Can't take a joke?" Mark just looked at him, gave a slight final nod. "Take care, Steve." And he walked out. He didn't answer Steve's texts that weekend or the next week. Steve's texts went from angry, "You're being crazy," to desperate, "Come on, man, I'm sorry. It was just a joke." Mark's life became quieter, more peaceful, more his. He had space, he had time. He used that time to work on his own projects. He eventually got a promotion, not because he became louder, but because his presence had fundamentally changed. He projected calm certainty. People started coming to him for advice. Mark didn't become a jerk. He didn't become an aggressor. He just stopped being weak. He stopped negotiating his own worth with people who had already proven they didn't value him. These are the 3 ruthless rules. 1. The immovable mind. Master your internal reaction. Use the strategic pause. 2. The gaze of the void. Master your external projection. Control your nonverbals. 3. The path of walking alone. Master your attachment. Be willing to remove your presence. These rules are not easy. They are not a life hack. They are a daily practice, a war against your own ego. Your ego will scream at you to react, to get angry, to prove them wrong, to seek their approval. The path of Musashi is to let that ego die. To walk this path is to accept that you will be misunderstood. People who are comfortable in their own emotional chaos will find your calm disturbing. They will find your self-possession arrogant. Let them. Musashi wrote, "Today is victory over yourself of yesterday. This is your only battle. You are not competing with the person who disrespects you. You are competing with the version of yourself who allows it." The next time you feel that hot sting of disrespect, you have a choice. Will you be a slave to your emotions, a puppet for them to control? Or will you be a warrior? Will you hold the pause? Will you project the void? Will you, if necessary, walk your own path? Alone? The choice is yours, and it is the only one that matters.